Hello, fellow students in Clark Lumberry's class. Um, this is the fourth entry, though technically it counts as the second since I'm going to go back and re-record 2 and 3 due to a mishap. But anyways, I just wanted to comment first on today's lesson. It was very interesting because they're still in Camera Lucida by Roland Barthes, but one of the things I found particularly stimulating as far as the mind goes was regarding Barthes' idea that with photography, it acts in a sense as though you're a mortician or an undertaker, and that you continuously, well, the comparison was to embalming. I believe it was Professor Lundberry that presented that idea. Pretty much, it was the idea that we work with chemicals whenever we are doing photography, and embalmers tend to work with chemicals as well, and thus they're both preserving um, images, and in a sense, I guess after we die, we're nothing more than an image rather than a walking, talking person, because all that's left is just the image rather than the actual person, and that's what a photograph does. It preserves that image of the person perfectly. Um, Case in point, and I wish I actually had this with me, and I didn't think to grab it, is a photograph that was taken by Jenny Stern, aka Jenny Lind, that I found in a book called Punk Pioneers. And it was about her years in the LA punk scene in the 1970s and early 1980s, as it presented a lot of her photographs. It was basically a part of a presentation that was done. But anyways, one of the photographs that stood out to me was her photo of John Paul Bean, who was better known by the stage name Darby Crash, and he was the lead singer of the band The Germs. And it's undated, but it's probably late 1978 or 79 at the most. And Crash is in his element. His tongue is out, he's got a wild-eyed look on his face, his chest is all slashed like he Iggy Pop or something, so it's obviously been through a lot. I don't even know what song is playing or how they're sounding, but it just looks like there's a lot going on in the photograph. And I hope that doesn't reveal the punctum too early, and I hope to bring this photograph in at some point, but that's besides the point. Crash ended up overdosing on heroin in 1980 at the age of 22, which means that we no longer have the man himself to judge by. All we have is a specific image of him, be it in photographs or films of the band and himself playing live. Now, what's interesting is that, as well, is that we don't have a clear idea from the photograph of what Crash was really like. But from what I've read about him in his personal life, he's a very intelligent human being that read a lot of philosophy books, and he was genuinely near genius level, and yet he never purported this image whenever he was on stage. If you listen to a lot of the Germs' live recordings as opposed to the studio ones, Crash was a mess. He would never go near the microphone. He was like all over the place, getting himself hurt and scratched and cut. And essentially, it belied the fact that this was a person of great mental ability, and yet he never presented that at all. Which goes to my point that I presented on Tuesday about the subject being at odds with himself, or himself, I should say, in that we have the idea that we want of what we want to be, and how we present ourselves, and then we have the true self, and then we have the fourth point that Bart's made as well, where the camera makes us what we are. And this is true whether or not it's in sports photography, concert photography, even street photography. Elements of this tend to bleed through that the camera never gives off a true or a vital representation of the true person pardon me, unless, in a sense, this person is caught off guard. Now, it might create an unflattering photograph, but in my opinion, that unflattering photograph can, at the same time, reveal a lot about the person than a simple pose could. But that's an idea I've always had a lot of trouble with because it crosses over into voyeurism at the same time, which is something that I don't think we necessarily need to get into. But overall, I believe that the camera can reveal the true nature of a person, or it might be that even with the pose, um, even a pose can try and capture that nature of the real person. It just has to depend on how truthful they want to be to themselves. Now, Bart himself, on the cover of Back Photograph, has tended to not really be true to himself, but at the same time, there are parts of Bart that you can see. It seems like he's a neurotic, shy individual, and for being flamboyantly gay, well, I don't know too much about Bart to say flamboyant, but he was gay. It just seems like Bart wasn't really comfortable with himself in front of the camera. So this is just the image I have of him from what I've seen. I don't know a thing about him. All I can do is look at a picture and think, oh, here's somebody that's probably insecure and shy. I don't know if that's true or not, and I suppose that was the point he was trying to make. Um, there's a lot of other points I wanted to make, but I'll try to space those out when I get around to redoing the rest of my blog. Till next time, class.